Hopping hand for
Be careful.
Aceto
He's
and Scott Higgins, both of them coked up out of their minds.
Listen to you. He's down in the basement.
Yeah.
Oh, I love that.
I think we should call this the Acement.
The Acement, yes.
Yeah, what do you think there, huh?
I like that. The Acement Studios.
Excuse me, I'm drinking beer. Hold on a second.
We usually drink bourbon on our end.
Yeah,
when we
right.
do the podcast, so
That's all right.
feel free to enjoy yourself.
Yeah, exactly. You shoot an 8-ball if you want. We don't care, as long as it's good stories. It's Wednesday night, and welcome to the Acement. This is Behind the Funny. I am Ace Aceto, and you'll notice next to me is
I'm
not Scott Higgins.
No.
Exactly.
No.
We have our buddy Tom Stewart, who has been a guest on the podcast multiple times. Scott is on a well-deserved vacation. And, he always busts my balls and calls me the, always on vacation guy. And so he's off this week. And so
where'd he go?
He's, I don't know, camping in the woods somewhere.
Oh,
I don't know. He's, I don't know where he is.
Doesn't seem like an outdoorsy guy to me.
I know he doesn't. I mean, a bear and,
A bear.
Maybe a bear, but not so much a cub. But yeah, no, we have Tom Stewart on, who is a very successful and fellow comic and podcaster himself. So you've heard us. We always love to, and we'll talk a little bit at the end of the episode tonight about Scottober coming up, which is going to be so much fun, because every year we usually have Tom on in October to talk about paranormal investigations. And so he has 2 podcasts. So tell us a little bit about your 2.
Well, I have the main podcast that I do called My Paranormal Story, where I just... Every episode is just me telling a story about something that has been spooky that happened to me. So it might be a ghost story, or it might just be a creepy thing somewhere that happened. Sometimes I talk about different cases I was on when I was an investigator. So that's the main one. The other one is kind of a spinoff. It's Celebrity Paranormal Experiences. And that one is just me telling the story of celebrities, famous people who have had hauntings or different run-ins with paranormal stuff.
Yeah.
And it's kind of interesting to hear the story of famous people and things they've encountered.
Right.
And there's a lot of them.
And I have to say, both podcasts, very listenable, very, kind of quick hits, like 20, 25 minutes, really good. Tom's got a great voice. Obviously, you've been in radio for on and off 30 years, TV. So it's really a good story. Great podcast and really good.
Thank you. And I enjoy coming on here every year around Halloween and give Scott a good scare.
We'll talk a little bit later about what we've got lined up for Scottober. For the Scottober Spooktacular. Yes, we do have our unofficial sponsor this week is the Balvenie, which I was noticing that Scott drank a lot last week. If you notice how much is left in that bottle.
Were you not here?
I was here, but I only had 1.5, and the rest was Scott. So we cheers to you, our listeners.
I'm not a drinker. I gave it up some years ago, so I'm just doing got his old-fashioned Coke here.
Yes, so not the Coke that Frank
not
said in the beginning of the thing.
No, the soda kind.
No. So
no.
But we are excited this week because and I know Scott's pissed because he couldn't be here. He was like, "Oh my God." He goes, "I just realized that the night we have this guest, I'm on vacation." He goes, "I may try and dial in, but I haven't heard shit from him all day." So I'm guessing that
he's in
not.
the woods. He's got no cell service.
Exactly. But we are so honored to have this next guest on. We've talked about him for the past couple of weeks. We have been able to be on some shows with him online. Both the Guinness Book of World Records show that we did with Mark Riccadonna and Richie Byrne, as well as most recently we talked about it, and I will put it up in the notes a little bit later, but we've made a couple of announcements on the podcast about our friend Bob Nelson, very, very funny comic, one of the guys from the original Rodney Dangerfield Young Comedian specials. Both Scott and I have worked with him multiple times. Fantastic guy, and he's battling colon cancer right now. And so there was a GoFundMe for him. but we also did a 24-hour telethon where we were on with some other hilarious comics. I mean, I think Scott geeked out when Rich Voss basically shit all over us for 5 minutes about how he goes, "Where'd you guys come from? In obscurity?" And Scott was more than happy to get shit on by Rich Voss.
Yeah,
which was actually great. But what was more important was it was to raise money for Bob Nelson and for his medical treatments, and it was all put together by our guest tonight. So this guy has been, as in his words, doing this for 40 fucking years. But you may know him from multiple appearances on Conan O'Brien, on the Tonight Show, on Late Night, as well as being one of the staples on the Ima show. So we're so honored to have him on tonight. We want to welcome to the Behind the Funny podcast, Mr. Rob Bartlett. And here he is. Welcome, Rob.
Hey, Rob.
Oh, Ajit, how you doing?
You look like you should be picking coffee in Colombia right now.
I know. I'm going to go start spraying my tomatoes.
I love it.
Go
Thanks.
hose down the driveway while you're out there.
Yeah, exactly. No,
Exactly.
Thank you so much for being on, Rob. We really appreciate it. This is an honor for us to have you on. And, we'll start off by talking a little bit about, so how did you get to know Bob Nelson?
Bob and I started out together at Richard M. Dixon's White House Inn, which was a small, it was like a mom and pop little restaurant where Richard M. Dixon, an actor by the name of James LaRoe, who looked so much like Nixon that he parlayed it into a career. He opened up this little restaurant and decided that, maybe, this comedy boom, these talent nights, you don't have to pay them. They're just the pleasure of getting up on stage in front of an audience. And
people come and drink and we make money. Yeah,
exactly. And so that was the first real showcase room on Long Island. And Bob and I met there along with Jackie the Joker Van Martling and a whole bunch of other, legends in the comedy business, not the least of which was Eddie Murphy, who Bob and I were members of a trio called the Identical Triplets. It was Bob, Eddie, and myself. And
so Bob was the third one.
Oh, because in your bio it says
wondering.
that it was you and Eddie Murphy were 2/3 of it, but I didn't realize Bob was the third person. Oh my God!
When I wrote that part of the biography, it was when I was still mad at Bob. So I think that's probably why I just cut him out of the thing.
Nice.
Well, so Eddie Murphy must have been just like a kid back then, right?
He was 17 years old the first time I saw him on stage. And, you hear all these stories about these starlets in the 30s and the 40s and the 50s, being discovered at, the lunch counter at some, drugstore or whatever. But when I saw this kid get up on stage for the very first time, I knew in my bones more than I knew anything else in my life, this kid was going to be huge because the confidence and the talent and it just, it was one of those God-given things. It was like, it's really just a question of time at this point.
I hope he makes it someday.
Yeah,
He sounds very funny.
I mean, he was a kid, a couple of good bits, whatever. If it wasn't him, it was going to be Rodney Allen Rippey. So,
Yeah, right. Hey, I remember Rodney Allen Rippey when I was a kid. That kid was a great dancer, right?
See, but this is one thing that you have over Rodney Allen Rippey. Rodney Allen Rippey never did the Steve Ketzel show. So that's where you have it over.
That's right. Are you looking on my bio now? Are you looking on my bio?
I just say
on your
this.
website, huh?
I will do research before I commit myself to something, But I got to tell you, and this is like comic to comic, character actor to character actor. You got to develop this, the guest at Jesus' wedding character. That is such a great, that could be like your signature piece.
Yeah.
It's so perfectly contained and you can go anywhere with it. And you don't even touch upon half the stuff. I mean, the stuff that you have there is hysterical, but there's so much more. I mean, you can just build it into this enormous thing. I just think,
you know what's funny though, Rob? It's funny because depending on the crowd,
Mhm.
some people, if they're not religious at all,
Mhm.
they're okay with it. But if they're
Mhm.
religious, they get so pissed off at that bit.
Yeah, you know,
Like
you
I
gotta-
literally, when I put my arm over the microphone, over the mic stand, and I start giving Jesus a noogie, people get really fucking pissed.
yeah,
If they're really religious.
there's if you work on it long enough and you keep,
Yeah.
and you'll find a way to make it so that it's going to work. There'll be some
Yeah.
little nuance or something that you'll put into it that will just take the curse off it.
Yeah.
Because it's all about intent. It's all about intent.
Exactly.
And what I loved about it was, you were treading the line, but it was so pure spirited. You know what I mean?
Exactly.
And
People,
it was so positive that it was just, it was great.
that's what I've told people. I'm not making fun of Jesus. I'm making
No.
fun of the drunk asshole at every
Right.
wedding.
At
And
every
imagine
wedding.
if he was at the wedding of Cana. You know what I mean?
Exactly. And then just maybe at some point the drunk goes, "What? You forgive me? Oh wow!"
Yeah, right. Well,
like that where it like acknowledges,
I don't know,
where you're coming
if you've watched it online, I don't even know, because I have added some stuff to it, because I'm like, I do the whole, I love what you did with Lazarus last week, right out of the grave, and then I'm like, I turn around, I go, I peed my robe when he came out of the cave. No one was expecting that, and some people get it, some people don't. But I appreciate that, man. I love the act outs are my most favorite parts of my act. That's what I love doing,
That's what I'm saying. I mean, you're a character actor. The more that you can put that part of you, because that separates you from the stand-up monologist, and everyone's got their niche, but like you can do both, and so you might as well highlight the stuff that you do that's the other side of it. You know what I mean?
Exactly.
So but I think there's something there in that piece. I think
Thanks, man. That's awesome.
That could be your signature piece.
Listen, honestly, even when we were on the telethon and we started all doing our dueling Gilbert Gottfrieds, I love the fact that I was able to make some of you guys laugh. Like even Voss, even Rich Voss, as much as he was shitting on us for being obscure, and no names, he laughed when I started doing that, and when I started doing the Ray Romano stuff.
It's a big deal for you guys.
It is. It really is.
It makes you feel like you're significant when let's face it. It's just it could be anything further than the truth. And by the way, at this point in the appearance, I just want to say, fuck Scott Higgins, okay? Fuck him for going on vacation.
Yeah.
It's such a big deal, Rob. It's such a great. He's just a get.
Rob,
and then he's got to go on vacation. No.
What's funny?
He's dead to me.
Right before this happened, I actually had to change our banner underneath where it says Acecito Tom Stewart. It used to say Acecito fuck Scott Higgins.
Oh, that's so
I just changed it today because I figured Tom might feel bad about that. But I'll go back and change it. I can edit it at any time, so it's not a problem.
And Tom, as a former radio personality, let me just say this: you also have a face for radio.
Yes, thank you.
Yes, exactly.
I've been told that many times, actually.
Yes, he knows that. Yeah. So let me ask you this, because you said you've been doing it for 40 years, and you told us you started at Richard M. Dixon's White House, and that was like a variety show. What made you get up on stage that first time?
It was kind of clear from an early part of my life that I was not going to be, a football star. I was not going to be, the BMOC. I was not going to be, I was just going to be some kind of an insignificant, guy in the corner with a name like Bartlett, which very easily translates into fartlet. It was a tough existence.
Yes.
I'll just say this. When I was in kindergarten, I actually imitated a Pat Cooper routine. My father and mother had the Pat Cooper album where he did the Italian Wedding, which was one of my favorite. I mean, when you're talking about comedic pieces, and a lot of what I do in my act are these little character playlets. That's what Pat Cooper did back in 1963, I think it was. He created this environment where he had all these different characters and the band leader and all the guests and it was just, and
It was controlled chaos.
Yeah, but at 6 years old, I knew that was something that was really great,
Right.
Plus, it made my father laugh, which was something that I really tried to do a lot, just to kind of get past. But
get past.
You know,
I passed at my dad's club.
Yeah, exactly. Not that comedians have this thing where they need approval from their fathers.
No, not at all.
No. I imitated Pat Cooper's Italian wedding routine in kindergarten. So it was clear that this was a path that I was kind of destined to be in.
Right.
I found my little niche, as one of the drama club nerds and realized that acting and being funny and stuff like that could kind of get me over whatever. And there was a comedy boom. It was right around the time that Steve Martin and Robin Williams and these guys all kind of broke. It was
like
huge.
79, 80.
Comedy was the rock and roll of the late, from 78 on until like maybe 85. It was, it was the rock and roll of entertainment. And Dixon's was the only place on Long Island where I'm from where you could actually go and do this. It was a small, tiny ad in the Long Island Press, and I'll give it a shot. I was taking a leave of absence from college. I was on a full scholarship to Alfred University to major in English and theater. But then I wound up missing about 4 months worth of classes due to Crohn's disease.
Oh, really?
So my scholarship kind of went in the shitter. So I took a year.
No pun intended.
Right. Exactly. I took a year leave of absence to, make enough money to go back ostensibly. And I worked as a janitor in a building in Manhattan where my uncle was the building superintendent, and it was an office building. The things we do for love.
Yeah.
And while I was there, one of the guys who I worked with thought that I was really funny, so I would make fun of the other people we worked with. And his friend had a wine and cheese cafe in the late 70s, which was a huge deal back in the it was discos and wine and cheese cafes for people who couldn't dance, basically.
Yeah.
And
fondue places, right?
There were so many fucking fondue places.
Oh my God. I remember in 1975 getting the kitty fondue kit. That was a fucking gift in the 70s. A kitty fondue. Yeah.
You were the coolest person on your block.
We're melting chocolate and putting it in strawberries. Yeah, great.
Exactly.
And it's called fondue.
Right. Fondue you. And so when I saw that, this, I did it a couple times, and I thought, oh, wow, this is kind of going okay. And months went by and whatever, and all of a sudden Dixon's popped up, and I thought, well, let me go down and see what's going on. And I waited until I think I got on at 3:45 in the morning that night, and there were more comedians and more singers and more entertainment acts on the bill than there were people in the audience. And so I had a bad taste in my mouth, and I didn't go back for a couple of months. But then I took this comedy arts workshop thing that they did at the Improv with a guy, Irving Dalvin. I don't know what his credentials were or why he thought he could be, a comedy mentor. And and I found out from the people there that all of a sudden that they were hanging off the rafters at Dixon's. So I went to Dixon's, and that's where it just kind of started. I mean, every week you go back and see if you can get another spot, and
how did it go that first time you got on stage? Did it go well, or did it, because it's funny, we in the years we've been talking to people, it didn't matter how it went. Either way, whether it went great or whether it went horribly, they were like, I got to do that again.
Yeah,
I got to get back up on stage.
And obviously, it's a disease. It's a symptom. It's like, why you do this? Because I have no choice.
Yeah, right.
I mean, it's like one of those situations.
Right.
And you do whatever you need to do.
Yeah.
To get to where you want to be. I mean, and that's kind of the whole crux of the whole thing.
But isn't it? It's almost like a drug. Like you're like, I got to do that again.
Oh, it's absolutely.
And if you didn't do well, people have said, I got back up on stage because I was like, I know I can do better than that. I know I can. And if you did do well, you're like, it's like you got a taste of crack. You're like,
Right.
oh my God, I need it again. I got to get back up on stage.
Yeah,
you know?
it's one of two things. I unfortunately didn't realize that they wanted me to go up for more than one set, and so they didn't turn the crowd around.
So you did the same material twice in one night.
And because I was so nervous, I was drinking beer and wine because that was what was free. And that's not a good mixture. And so my second set was basically me doing impressions of various celebrities farting. So, I mean, that was really where I went to in that particular night.
I saved my great shit for this one, for the second set.
I was truly, it was the beginning of improv.
Yeah.
You know, as far as I'm concerned. It was just,
now, what did your father or family think of it? Because you said you were in college, so you were still young. Were they supportive, or were they you're crazy? Or,
what are you doing?
Yeah.
It was a combination of both. Because I had kind of found my niche in the the drama club and all that kind of stuff. I knew that show business and acting and all that kind of stuff was going to be eventually the area I was going to go into. I gotta say, for the one thing I got to give my father credit for. The one thing is the fact that he was very supportive of me, doing this. So, and when you know that that's what you want to do, it doesn't make a difference.
Yeah.
Who thinks it's a good idea, or thinks it's a bad idea, or who gives you permission, or you're gonna do it because there is no other choice.
Right.
Yeah, it's in your DNA, and you have to do it.
That's it.
Yeah.
Hold on. So I'm getting yelled at on the comments. You know how it is. So Tom Bannis isn't here tonight. So I just want to throw up some of the comments that have come in, and I'm sorry to cock block you on this. Scott Higgins says he's busy that month because that's he's talking about October. Every October we bring in paranormal investigators, and this October I have pretty much scared the shit out of him because I've told him I don't want to tell him everything I have planned, but I've got some really good shit. I've got Jason from Ghost Hunters coming on. I've got David Naughton, who was the star of American Werewolf in London. Yes, I got him coming on. And then we've got a couple of surprises that Tom and I are working on. So he says he's busy that month, but that ain't going to happen. Sean Teague says, hey, Ace, Polly Chaser from the Acement. I need an exclamation. I don't know if Polly Chaser is one of the drinks, jokes, and storytelling folks who normally watches. But so my name is Ace. We're in my basement. One of our past guests said, I think you should call it the Acement. And that's where the Acement was born. I got a thank you email from my donation from Bob today. As a matter of fact, how awesome is that? So our friend Robin, who lives out in Colorado but is originally from Long Island, she donated to Bob's GoFundMe page. So thank you, Robin. That's awesome. Looks like Bob is feeling well enough to send some thank yous. Hey, Rob. Polly Chaser says, hi, Rob. Are you Taliban? Just asking. I don't know. If
the Taliban telling me
it was all downhill from there. I think he's talking about, or he or she is talking about our, when you were talking about Long Island and getting on at Richard M. Nixon's. Mike Souls says, hey, guys. Polly Chaser evidently knows Mike. They're saying hi back and forth. No mods. We can have fun here. Oh, no moderators, in other words. Yeah, because Tom Bannis, who's usually the moderator, isn't on tonight.
And by the way, Ace, this is all really engaging.
I know. I'm sorry, but here's where it gets bad. Hi, Ace. Tom, did Scott quit? No, they didn't quit. I'm not religious, thank God.
No one
just
cares.
Went Jesus. Oh my God.
No one cares.
Here's what they said.
Nobody cares what they have to say.
Polly Chaser said, please acknowledge that you at least read this Twitch.
You have. We've already established that. You have a guest. Interview your guest.
All right. I'm sorry. Now I feel stuck in the middle. I feel like I'm stuck in the middle.
No.
I'm sorry. All right. So let's talk about this.
You're not stuck in the middle. You're not stuck in the middle. You're at a crossroads. Okay.
All right.
And let's just like real world, Ace. This is not working out for you. Okay. The comedy thing, you gave it a shot.
I tried.
You know,
I
you
tried.
tried.
32 years. I should
It's
just.
time to move on.
I know it's time to move on. Thank God I have a day job. So Rob, you grew up in Long Island. Did you have siblings?
Yeah.
And where did you fall in the order?
I'm the oldest.
Oldest. Honestly, in
Mhm.
5 years we've been doing this, I can count on one hand the amount of people who have said that they are the oldest.
They're mostly middle, right?
It's mostly middle and kid and babies because we were screaming for attention. Usually the oldest is like a rocket scientist, a lawyer, a doctor. You know, Tom.
That's when my family was like really different, because my family, as far as they were concerned, my other brothers were more important than me. So I don't know. It was kind of this anomaly, this natural aberration in the cosmos, where the firstborn is not the favorite. You know,
You
That's
were a
why
practice run. Is
yeah,
what you
they
were.
kept trying. They're like, this one we don't really like him. Let's have another one.
yeah, because when you have more than one kid, like the first one is like, I don't know, let's see if he floats. You know, I mean, it's like those kinds of things.
Right, right.
And then as you move along, the first one drops his binky, and you put on a hazmat suit with tongs, and you
boil it.
You boil it. You make sure it's completely disinfected, and then you have a second kid. He drops a binky, and it's like you run it under the faucet,
Hot water. Yep.
And the third one, it's like
yeah, exactly.
Right back in.
We've all thought of that, right? Anyone who's had kids has thought of that same joke. It's so funny, but it's so true because
thanks.
you do.
Thanks, Ace, for making it seem like everyone would have thought of that particular
Well, I
joke.
thought of it.
You're
but
nothing
maybe,
if not supportive.
maybe it's
of
just
your
me
guest.
and you. Maybe it's just me and you. We're just geniuses, the two of us.
I wouldn't put myself in the same like.
I'm trying, Rob. I'm trying.
I like you, Ace. I mean, you're a great guy. You're a funny guy, but we're in the same nothing. Okay, Ace, we are not even. We're not
all
even
of a sudden,
Rich
Voss is taking over his body, and he's like, where are you from? Obscurity.
Hence the hat.
Hence the hat. Yeah.
I bet you
no,
wish
you need
Scott
the big
was here
fly
now.
glasses. I know.
No,
I know.
but the only thing we have in common right now is that we are talking to each other on the internet. Okay, that's the only thing we have. There's not even like comedian to comedian. There's no connection.
No, I know. You
whatsoever.
said comedian to comedian earlier, and I'm holding you to it. So, no, I appreciate that. No, you're right, though. Most
What am I
people,
gonna
it
say?
is what you said. It is what you said, because even like Tom Cotter, who we've had on, was like, yeah, my dad's this world-renowned neurosurgeon. My brother's an admiral, and I'm telling dick jokes on stage. But most times it's not the oldest that becomes the comedian.
I know, that's what's weird. But like I said, in my family dynamic, I was almost the middle child, even though I was first. I don't know how it wound up happening, but it just did, and that's what I've been dealing with ever since.
Now, how many siblings?
2 younger brothers.
Okay.
What can I say? Born in Brooklyn, raised on Long Island.
Yeah.
Not the greatest.
Are they funny?
My brothers?
Yeah.
They both had, a little bit of a proclivity towards it.
Yeah.
Not as funny as my kids. My kids are 10 times funnier than I am.
Really?
My sons, I gotta say, I had a problem with my gallbladder, and so after I would eat, I would like immediately go to the bathroom and throw up.
Mhm.
And my youngest son goes, why don't you just take your dinner and throw it right in the toilet and cut out the middleman?
Right.
So it's like, this is my progeny.
Yeah, right. You're like, I'm so proud of you. I hate you right now, but I'm proud of you.
Exactly. But I mean, that's the way that it is,
So after obviously you started at Richard M. Nixon's, you started branching out and getting comedy gigs beyond Long Island. Mm-hmm. What are some of the wow moments before you got on the radio? What are some of the wow moments that you hit? Like, I mean, obviously being in a throuple of you, Eddie Murphy, and Bob Nelson is pretty fucking amazing.
I like that word throuple. That was like a nice.
You like that? Yeah,
that was nice. Nice get there.
Yeah, thanks.
Kudos.
Thanks. I try.
Any old footage, by the way, of the triplets, the three of you?
There may be. We did a thing. It was for. At that point, cable on Long Island was about 3 years old, and so this was like their some station. I guess it was whatever the local station they had created.
Local cable show.
I
Yep.
guess, and it was Richard M. Dixon's, White House Inn, and they did 3 specials. Each one had 3 of the original Magnificent Seven guys, who started at Dixon's, and Bob Nelson and Eddie Murphy and myself. We did one, and that aired, and I thought this was like, I was going to be on TV. I was already huge,
Right.
I was already Steve Martin as far as I was concerned. And then I'm walking around the Sunrise Mall, and this guy comes to me and he goes, "My man, television. I saw you last night with those 2 funny guys." So,
So, for the sake of our audience, because I know I've read up on the Magnificent Seven, who else was in that Magnificent Seven of Long Island?
It was Bob Nelson, myself, Jackie the Joke Man Martling, the late great Bob Woods, Dave Hawthorne, Jim Myers, and Richie Minervini.
Minervini, yep.
Who started the East Side Comedy Club, and I mean his place in the history of comedy, let alone Long Island comedy, is firmly implanted, and not as a comedian, because let's face it, he really is just an awful fucking comedian. So, he gets more props for actually, running the East Side,
owning the club,
right? Than actually where we first got paid for real for doing comedy,
right?
So.
Yeah, no, I worked with Richie. I never worked at his club, but I worked with him up here in Rhode Island at the Comedy Connection. It was me, him, and Adam Ferrara working together, and he was wearing the white suit, and he talked so fast. That's the thing. You missed half his jokes because he was talking so fast.
Yeah, it's probably because he's really, really, really coked up. But Richie, Richie's killing it on the cruise line.
Is he really?
Killing it. I mean, he can work every single week
if he wants. Yeah,
I mean, it's just
that's crazy. Did you ever do cruise ships?
No. And I decided I wasn't going to do cruise ships one night when I was actually on a cruise ship, and so the comic doing my material. I decided,
really?
I'm not going to do cruise ships because my material is already well established.
Yeah, it's already been there. It's already been there.
Right. So why would they want to hire me? Because they can get my material for a third of what they would have to pay me. So.
Wow. And it's funny because there's a guy here in New England, in Boston, Jimmy Dunn, who wrote a book called Boat Hack, because he was a cruise ship comic for a while, and then finally he was like, this is hacky, I'm not doing it. But
here's the thing, and it's really easy to say, boat hacks, the hack, whatever. There are very many levels to any kind of pursuit, and in order to get consistent work in any form of show business, you really got to know what you're doing. And so the guys who are constantly getting booked on cruise ships, they know what they're doing,
right?
And they're always working. What is a show business career? Yeah, I mean, a little bit of fame, fine. And trade fame with another couple of zeros on your yearly income,
right?
I mean, half the guys who are doing cruise ships are making more than any headline comic who's out on the road.
Exactly. So, yeah, no, you're right.
You got to kind of give them a little bit of respect for that.
No, and we've had some cruise ship comics. We had Al Romas, another Long Island guy. New York guy. Al is down in Tampa, and he's doing great on cruise ships. I think the cruise ships have kind of evolved too. The cruise ship comics have evolved a little bit.
A little bit. I mean, from the days of when one particular comic was airlifted off the boat because he did a Leon Klinghoffer joke in his act. Oh yeah, that's a real story.
Really?
Yeah, it's a legendary story. There was a comic who decided he was going to do a Leon Klinghoffer joke on a cruise. And whoever was in the audience had enough weight and was so offended that they actually the
They got him airlifted off.
the Coast Guard had to come in and airlift him off the boat.
Oh my God.
And then the next comic got on. So,
Wow. That's crazy. So tell us a little bit about some of the wow moments, like some of the, it's weird because it seems like there's been an evolution now where, because late night TV has gotten so watered down and they really don't book comics as much, even with Conan ending, we had Brian Kiley on a few months ago. And luckily, I will say, Brian, we were joking about Brian looking for a job, and he landed a job. He's a writer on Ellen now. But Brian was saying, they don't really book comics on late night TV as much anymore. It's not like you made it when you got to Johnny Carson or Jay Leno or David Letterman,
Well, it's like anything else. It has changed. The business has changed dramatically. I came up at a time where there weren't as many venues as there were comedians, and then all of a sudden there were more venues than there were the comedians. And I was very fortunate to come up in the time that I came up with it. And there was that big dip, when people decided, why should we go to comedy club when
there's 400,000 programs on TV
exactly
right.
On cable, there's always a brick wall with a guy in a vest. So and now it's gotten to the point where maybe they pass at the comic strip and they have a special. It's like it's comedy is the only business that eats its own young. And that's what's happening, is the fact that it's gotten to the point where it's disposable. So if you are talented, if you are unique and you have something different, because I'll be honest with you, I'll be in the car sometimes, I'm listening to XM, and I'm on the Road Dogg channel, and I listen to like an hour worth, and it takes me a second to realize I have listened to 10 different comedians in that hour. But I didn't delineate any difference between any of them, because it was the same point of view, the same
no one
voice,
stood out,
the same delivery. It was just so generic. And that's where the business is now. So there are wild stories and wild stories, the stories that count as wild now, to me, is nowhere near,
as wild as when you were coming up, right?
I mean, I think so. I mean, but there's a paradigm for show business, and it's who is Ace Aceto, and then it's get me Ace Aceto, and then it's get me an Ace Aceto type, and then it's get me a young Ace Aceto, and then it's who's Ace Aceto. So that's the arc.
It's a cycle, right.
And so, however you're able to navigate that as an artist, and as
and it's like that in acting too. I remember them some story was being told where they were like, "Get me a Jane Lynch type."
Yeah.
And they were like, "Jane Lynch audition. You can get Jane Lynch." You know what I mean? She's here.
There's actually a market and where you'll go for a voiceover audition. Yeah. And what they will do is that they will use your take that they really liked and play for the celebrity who's going to do the voiceover. So I mean, it's that's the thing. I mean, it's but I mean, you come, obviously, you have an acting background. It's it's clear you stand up when you do the character kind of stuff. It's weird because people in the casting side of the business, there's this kind of, he's a stand-up. He doesn't know how to work with other people. He doesn't, he can't be an actor. He's not going to, when, so many of us come from a theater background.
Right.
And we know how to like give stage. We know how to like throw the ball around, as Gary Sachs would say. And it's really hard. It's almost harder to break into acting if you're a stand-up than if you're just a regular actor.
And
it's the weirdest thing, because when I look back at the reason why I got into this business was I wanted an acting career. And I came up at the time when Robin Williams and Steve Martin and all these guys were stand-ups, and they were transitioning into television and film careers.
Acting, right.
So, I mean, that to me was like the path to follow.
It's interesting you bring that up, because it's funny, because I was watching. We had Jackie Flynn on a couple of months ago, who I knew for years, and he's been in every Farrelly Brothers movie, and now he's on Loudermilk. And I hadn't watched the show, and I just binge watched it over the past 2 weeks. And do you know, every time Brian Regan was on, I was crying. I don't know if you've watched this last season of Loudermilk, but Brian Regan made me cry every time because his character is so flawed. And yes, he's playing a funny guy in some scenes, but he's playing a guy who is a recovering alcoholic who has walked out on his kids and is really trying to be a better person. And every time he cries, I start fucking bawling my eyes out. And I'm like, this should get a fucking Emmy or an Academy Award or whatever Hulu shows or Amazon Prime shows are eligible for, because
comedians get act.
Yeah, it's amazing, right?
Yeah.
It's amazing that, you know, they get all these serious actors get accolades who could never do a comedy, but you get a comedian who could do comedy in a serious role and they get no recognition. It's ridiculous. You know, I don't understand that. You would think by now the pendulum would have swung the other way, but
the business. This is the business we have chosen. It's what the Godfather says. And it really is. We've made the deal with the devil where we realize there's no plan B. We're in this. So you kind of have to take it all as it comes at you.
Right.
But, you know, it's hard sometimes because talent isn't always the thing that's the arbiter of success. Yeah. And that is one of the more frustrating things in the world. Brian Regan, a perfect example. Why he is not as big as Adam Sandler or Chris Rock or any of these other guys, I have no idea. Yeah. I worked with him on the road down south, the Punchline circuit, for 2 months one summer. And I was nervous about following him because what he did was so specific and so unique and so funny. And, you know, fortunately for him, I mean, for me, I should say, is that not a lot of people got it. Not a lot of people got it. So otherwise, I mean, it was just amazing. And, you know, his perspective and his persona and his take on things are just
absolutely.
And why he is not as big as these guys, I have no idea.
It's weird.
But that's this business. You know? That's this business. You know, we live in a business where, you know, you have an online presence and you're doing a comedy podcast and you put it up however, you know, many times you want to put it up, and, you know, you're doing the social media and all that kind of stuff, and you're actually, you know, coming up with an hour worth of unique content every week, you know, sketches and monologues, and then you wind up not having as many followers as somebody who opens boxes on camera, you know, or spends an hour and a half playing a video game with one singular camera shot behind him. I mean, it just millions and millions of hits. So that's the thing that, you know, that's where the business has gone. So that's what makes it so challenging.
Yeah. Well, I've always noticed that the simplest thing, or the thing that you think isn't all that great, always ends up being the thing that everyone likes the most. Yeah. You know, like every comedian I know has that one joke that they're like, this is the dumbest joke I've ever written, but it's the joke everybody always wants to hear you say.
Right.
You know,
it's either like the cheapest joke or the hackiest joke.
Right.
Like, you hate doing it, but it's like, but it's a big laugh.
But it gets a laugh every time. Right.
A big laugh.
The dumbest YouTube video you can make will be your best YouTube video.
Yeah.
You know?
Oh, yeah.
I offer the following. Milk, bread. Milk, bread.
I was just gonna say he probably bought
so
a new
simple
house with that video.
Right, so simple, and everyone in New England who lived through the blizzard of '78 knows exactly what that is.
Not just New England, my friend.
Right, Northeast, anyone in the Northeast, right?
Followers. It's not just New England.
Yeah,
I mean,
right.
Yeah. So
now we were talking about acting. I want to get into like your acting because, you know, you've done more than just comedy. I mean, you got into acting and was on Broadway, right?
I was very, very fortunate to use my, I guess, what could be laughingly referred to as a name from being on the IMUS program to get into certain doors for people who had, unconventional ideas about how you should cast things. And they saw whatever it was in me. And I was very fortunate to have, guys like Jay Binder, who I owe my entire Broadway career to.
Yeah.
Jay Binder, a casting agent who is just a genius. And, any good director will tell you casting is 99% of directing. So
Yeah.
these casting agents really should be directors themselves. And Jay Binder is certainly one of them. But I've been very fortunate to be put in these kinds of situations where, I actually got taken semi-seriously as an actor. And then it's up to you. You're in the room now, you got to prove yourself. So
Now you got to prove, right?
yeah, it's like getting in the door is part of it. But then you got to
show them why you're there.
You got to hold up your end of the deal.
Right.
And no matter what, I mean, my great acting teacher mentor, Joanna Beckson, said, auditions are performances. No matter how you twist and turn them, they're performances. You always keep you learn the script, you learn the lines as though it was an actual performance, but you hold the script in your hand because you don't want them to think that you're not willing to take feedback.
Right.
It's not a performance that's sealed in wax.
Right. You're still malleable. Right.
Right. Exactly. But I mean, to go through that, to be able to be in that room, to have that opportunity, that's, that's half the battle. And, I know more stand-up comics who, I tell you right now, if they got the right break, would win an Academy Award for their performances because, you guys are comics,
yeah,
we are a different breed. We look at the world very, very differently. By and large, we're really more sensitive than the average actor, I would think.
Yep.
Because we have a lot more fucked up things,
right,
in our psyches. But well, and that's the thing that you bring to any kind of acting performance. That's
right.
what that kind of an emotional content is what you want to perform. But
and if you think about it, acting is all about making choices. We make choices every time we step on stage. We can have the same material, but make different choices about how we deliver it every single night.
Yeah, it's funny.
So
Franklin Jai had an album.
Yep.
I don't know if I'm a comedian seriously, but it was like the two sides of the comic. One was like the really funny guy, and the other guy was the guy who was the technician. All right, what's next? Now do I segue to this? Do I do that? Do I pull that?
Right.
And then, so there's like this constant inner
monologue.
Do
I put an emphasis on this word or this word? Like, how do I do this?
It's all fluid. Every crowd's different.
Right.
Some material kills here, some doesn't. So at the same time we're doing this and being funny, there's like this almost scientific thing going on where it's like a computer.
You're calculating things,
absolutely.
Right? Based on the previous joke that didn't go this well. All right, I got to change this one up. I got to put the emphasis on this word. So we're constantly making choices. That's what we do, right?
It's a chess game. We're thinking 3-4 moves ahead,
right?
So I mean, and Franklin Jai said that's the thing about comedians. It's that no one really knows that thing is going on simultaneously. So but. When push comes to shove, you look at some of the great performances on film and television, and you see how many of them are stand-up comedians. Right. It's just because there's an innate thing in stand-up that it's the same type of observation that you do as a really good actor. Right. You know what I mean? Because an actor, you want to be as observant as possible. You want to be open to as many. You want to watch human behavior and use that and put into your your little palette of your toolbox. And I think comics are like that because that's how we get our material. Is that
well, and just the sheer fact that we think on our feet on stage. So what is acting about? It's reacting to the person you're in the scene with,
right? Which
is in the moment. It's in the moment. If this person does something different than they did the last take, now you have to adjust to that and react in a different way.
Yeah. I mean, don't get me wrong. There are comics out there who are technicians who know how much exactly to the millisecond, what pause they need to take in order for this joke to work, whatever. And it's great and it's proficient and it's successful. I don't think it's art particularly to me. To acknowledge that the audience is a living, breathing thing, and it's
right.
it surges, it retreat, and you're adjusting to that, as
Yeah.
you're going along. That takes a certain kind of personality that knows how to absorb things, that sees behavior in a way that they can actually comment on it or make fun of it or
Right.
find something about it that unifies us. Because in acting, as in comedy, specificity is universal, as weird as
Right.
that sounds. The more specific that you can get about something, the more somebody's going to find something in that they feel the same thing. It's like, what we do is a job. It
Mhm.
may be more glamorous, it may get more attention,
Mhm.
but it's still a job.
Yeah.
We may as well be clocking in. You know what I mean? And so what I'm doing, you should be able to relate to, because it's what you're doing. It's what we
Right.
all do. I think the more that you realize what you do is, I'm not saying it's not special, but we're still in a position where we're circus people.
Yeah.
We're
Right.
just circus people.
Right.
You know?
Right. Yeah. It's interesting how many, like I said, how many actors don't get the recognition, or how many comics don't get the recognition for acting,
Mhm.
whereas you see so many comics that can do serious acting, but not
Mhm.
many serious actors that can do comedy
Yeah.
Right.
and pull it off.
For example, Don Rickles did a couple of Twilight Zones,
Yep.
a couple of other episodic, black and white in the
Yeah.
early 60s, late 50s.
What is it? Playhouse.
Yeah, Playhouse 90s and all that.
Playhouse 90. Right. Right.
And he is brilliant. And
Yeah.
you watch it, you go, you can't believe this is the same guy who went,
Yeah.
you hockey puck. I mean, it's the
Yeah.
same guy.
Right.
But
Right.
he is such a great actor. I
Yeah.
mean, one of my favorite movies of all time is Kelly's Heroes. And although it's a funny part,
Mm-hmm.
you can't take away from the fact that Don Rickles was a tremendous actor.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And
So-
some have come to mind, like Michael Keaton, Tom
Mhm.
Hanks. These guys all started out on stage doing stand up.
Right. Right.
And
That's
now
right.
they're like famous. And there's so many others too that
Yeah.
are coming.
Well, look at when you think about how many people point to Robin Williams in Dead Poets Society and Robin Williams in Bunker Hill College,
Goodwill Hunting.
Goodwill Hunting,
Mhm.
and then Jim Carrey in The Truman Show.
Yeah.
Like, that was a brilliant thing. And here's this goofy guy who does impressions, and he makes you cry by the end of that film.
Yeah.
And Steve Martin in Roxanne.
Steve Martin and
Steve
Roxanne.
Martin.
Yeah.
In Parenthood. I mean, all these amazing performances. It's just, it's clear, and but that's the thing you have to kind of get over, and that's the thing that I,
Right.
had to get over when I was trying to make my way into becoming an actor.
Through the business.
I mean, I kind of fell into acting in a way that I never thought that was going to happen. I was a headline act at the one of the last headliners at the Sands in Las Vegas, on the same stage the Rat Pack had performed on.
Wow.
And there was a theatrical producer there, and he knew me kind of from Imus, and he thought, you know what? He owned a whole bunch of theaters in Manhattan, a couple of off-Broadway theaters. He thought, why don't I bring this kid in and I'll put him up on, I'll put a spotlight on the fat guy.
Yeah.
And so I developed this relationship with this guy and wound up thinking I just didn't want to do just my act in a theater. I wanted to make it a little bit more than what it was. So I kind of semi-wrote a little play to kind of surround, it was based on Jonathan Winters walking through his attic, picking up stuff and doing bits based on the stuff that he picked up.
Yeah.
This took place in my suburban garage, and it was just, there was another story around it, which is one of the reasons why I got such awful reviews and we closed. But long story short, that's another show, Ace. We'll give them an entire other show.
Yeah, we could do another.
Yeah. I put all my stock on this thing, and I was going to be on Broadway, and then that didn't happen. And I fall into this situation where this guy, this director, well-known, respected director on Broadway, is doing this City Center Encores production of A Golden Boy, which was the Sammy Davis musical about a boxer. And once again, my savior, my casting guru says to Walter Bobby, well, you should see Rob Bartlett. And I go in and I audition and I get this part, which is kind of like Broadway, but not really Broadway. And it goes well. It's fun. I get the same kind of experience I did when I was, drama club nerd in high school. And so it's good to be doing theater again. And I've kind of thrown the heartache of mortal love to the side and moving forward. I'm having lunch one afternoon with Joyce Van Patten, who was in my Broadway show, Mortal Love. She played my agent. And we were just chatting, whatever. And Walter Bobby, the guy who directed, the Encore's production of Golden Boy, was there. So she knew him, and so we wound up sitting all together and having lunch. That's fine. And I go home, and then a couple of days later, I get a call from Gary, my agent, Gary Grant. And Gary says, I got my manager, my personal manager. And he says, I got a call. Walter Bobby wants you to audition for Chicago. So I said, Chicago the musical. He wants you to audition to be part of Amos Hart, Mr. Self.
Oh, wow.
So, okay. So it's only because I was in his mind from having lunch with him.
From having lunch, right.
And what had happened was Brad Garrett was supposed to be doing Amos because, one of the things about Chicago is they always hire these, Broadway stars to plug in and plug out and want to sell tickets. They invented stunt casting. And Brad Garrett got the Jackie Gleason biopic on television. So he couldn't do Chicago. Yep. So he was supposed to open the following week or 2 weeks, I guess. And Walter was stuck. And so he thought of me lunch. And so I went and I'd seen the show before. I knew the part. I knew that it was like one of the greatest parts in any, musical or any theatrical piece, whatever. And the show's over and the audience leaves and the curtain goes up and the musical director, the guy who conducts the band, is on stage. He goes, "Come on up, Rob." So I go up on stage at the Super Theater and I audition. I do Mr. Cellophane on stage with the musical director, and then got back in my car and drove home. And before I'd even gotten onto the ramp of the Long Island Expressway, Gary called and said I got in the part. So that's kind of how I got into that.
Was that before or after How to Succeed in Business?
Oh, that was way before. That was.
Oh, okay. So that was the first.
Right. That was really the first legitimate Broadway thing I had done since the show that I wrote that was on Broadway. Yeah. For a very short period of time. In between there, I did an off and then off Broadway show called Tabletop, which was just a straight play where I played the most evil, awful boss that's ever been created, and won a Drama Desk Award, a stand-up comedian getting a Drama Desk Award. Another example. It was Chicago, and then after Chicago, I did Little Shop of Horrors. I originated the part of Mr. Mushnick on the Broadway production of Little Shop. And while I was doing that, they brought me back to Chicago to do 2 weeks with Melanie Griffith because the understudy was on vacation, or the guy who was playing Amos was on vacation, and the guy who was the understudy had some kind of history. He had a couple of complaint notices in his file, and so Melanie Griffith said that she wouldn't work with him. So they brought me back to do Amos for 2 weeks, so I got to actually be Melanie Griffith's husband for 2 weeks, which was really kind of cool. And then Little Shop wound up turning into Odd Couple with Nathan Lane and Matthew Broderick. And then while I was doing that, Neil Simon asked if I would fill in for the guy who was playing Herman in Sweet Charity with Christina Applegate. And so while I was rehearsing the Odd Couple, I actually was doing performances on Broadway in Sweet Charity. And then I took a break for a couple of years. And then How to Succeed with Daniel Radcliffe, and then eventually Nick Jonas.
Wow.
Became So that's that whole theater arc
So was all that after Imus or
It was simultaneous.
simultaneous at the
Wow.
same time? So
See
how
that?
did you get on Imus?
See, Imus.
When did you sleep?
Damn,
Yeah,
well,
right. When did you sleep? Yeah, right.
When I was doing Sweet Charity at night and rehearsing Odd Couple in the afternoon, I was doing Imus in the morning, and we were in Secaucus. We were broadcasting from Secaucus because we were simulcast on video, and it's a huge set for
Yeah.
MSNBC in Secaucus. And so I would drive from Long Island to Secaucus every morning, and I would have to be in the makeup chair by 4 because the show started at 6.
Oh,
And it was on television. So if I was Dr. Phil, they had to put the bald cap on me. And,
right,
yeah.
right.
all
Or
this kind of
Hulk
stuff.
Hogan. They had to do that.
Exactly.
Right.
You couldn't just do the voices at
Yeah.
that.
No, it wasn't just radio anymore. So, and then I would leave there. I'd go to rehearsal for The Odd Couple, and then I would go to dinner, and then I would go over to the theater to do Sweet Charity with Christina Applegate, and I
Oh
would
my
get
God.
home. I guess the show went up at like 11. I'd try to get out as quick as possible. Get home around 12:30, midnight, and
And then back in the makeup chair at 4.
yeah, and get up at 3
Holy
to take a shower
shit.
and head out from Long Island at 4 to be in the makeup chair. So,
So how many years were you on coke?
that, I have to say, I really owe my longevity in this business to the fact that I never fell to the temptations of
Yeah.
the cocaine.
But that's why you're still here.
well,
That's
but
why you're still
I
here.
didn't know that then. I just
Yeah.
thought,
You were
first of
too
all,
busy.
it was too expensive.
Yeah,
Yeah, right.
And the last thing I needed was to be more hyped up than I already was. So yeah, I mean, you got to take it when it comes,
Right,
when
right.
the opportunities. I mean, when Neil Simon asks you to do a favor for him,
Holy
What do you
shit.
guys-
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, I think I'm
I'm
busy
sorry.
that week.
I'm
I gotta get up. I'm sorry.
that's too much. I got to get up and do the radio in the morning. What are you doing?
Yeah,
What are you
right.
doing?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, it's just the way that it is.
Yeah,
Right.
just sleep when you're retired.
How
right?
did you get the Imus gig?
Yeah.
The Imus gig, I fell into it,
Really?
like everything else, I mean,
Yeah.
Mhm.
you do the homework, you want to make the brain surgery money, you got to do the brain surgery homework, and
Right.
you do all that stuff that you need to do to get to the point where you can make a living in this, and then so
Mm-hmm.
you have to try and make yourself ready, so
Yeah.
that when the opportunities come along, you take them.
You're ready, right?
And so I was doing a benefit for it wasn't Make-A-Wish, but it was one of those kind of charities.
Mm-hmm.
And I had at the time been working with Soupy Sales a lot. I used to work the Bottom Line and be his opening act. He
Mm-hmm.
did this show that was all about, just straight joke telling. And it was me and him and a whole bunch of Catskill guys.
Mm-hmm.
And he was on NBC. He had a show in the afternoons on WNBC. 66 WNBC.
WNBC.
Right,
Yeah.
right. And for whatever reason, maybe he was on vacation or something, he wasn't there.
Mm-hmm.
And so I couldn't go on and promote it with him. And so I'm doing a one-nighter at some, ground round in Jersey or something one night.
Right.
And I'm
Yeah.
with a guy by the name of Mark Schaff, who happened to be Imus's producer at the time.
Okay.
Now, I know about Imus when I was in high school. I used to have an AM clock radio that I won because my homeroom, sold more magazines than any
Yeah.
homeroom
Yeah.
in
Right.
the sophomore class. And it would, I'd wake up to Imus. I mean, some of my fondest memories is getting up to go to school and hearing him come
And
out
listening to him.
coming out of Elton John's Don't Let the Sun Go Down on Me, to him saying, well, you're not going to let your son go down on me. How about your daughter? And this is 1973.
Yeah, right. That was so unheard of. Right.
1972, 1973. So, he was already my hero. So I said, yeah. He said, we're doing comics every, we have comedians on Fridays. I said, fine. So I go on. I do my Tom Carvel bit, which was my signature piece at the time.
Yep.
And he goes nuts
Yep.
and says, come back anytime you want. And I took him at his word. So
Yeah.
I would just show up. I would just show up in 30 Rock. And I would,
Really?
I'd call Mark the night before. I'd say, I'm going to try and sneak in tomorrow. And he would make sure that I was on the security list so I could,
So you could get in, right?
So I could get in, and started developing characters. I was doing Salmonella. That's where Salmonella got started, and
Yeah.
that's where The Night Before Christmas was originated, and
Wow.
and eventually, he went to rehab, and so they kept calling on me to come in to kind of like fill in the gaps.
Fill in some time. Yeah.
There's a lot of time to fill without him being there.
Right.
And then he came back, and I continued doing what I was doing with him. I was just coming 2-3 times a week, and then they had me coming in after the show to record this for the next day instead of being on live. And then WNBC got sold to WFAN, and Imus went with the sale. And before they made the move, they offered me the contract, and that's how I wound up being on the Imus.
So it just kind of morphed into its own thing. It wasn't like he was looking for a guy.
Right. No, it was just like
being at the right place at the right time.
Yeah.
What John Lennon says, life is what happens to you when you're busy making other plans.
Yes.
Yeah.
There's no greater truth,
Right.
So that's how I got into Imus. And, aside from the fact that for 30 years, I had a steady gig in show business.
Right.
It was the kind of gig where the guy was so nurturing of me and my talent that he allowed me to take off from the radio to go do pilots and to go do movies and to go do TV, TV appearances or whatever. And, I owe everything, to that, because one of the reasons why I didn't go out to LA to do the development deal like all the other comedians,
like everyone else did in the 90s, right?
Exactly. I couldn't be away from my family. I had a new son, and I was miserable. The last road gig that I did was in Jacksonville, Florida, at the Punchline, and I was just despondent.
Yeah.
So I said to my manager, Gary, I said, I can't do this anymore. And that's how Club 1407 happened, and the one-man show, and then that kind of, came in together with Imus, and then one thing led to another, and then next thing I know, I'm, they're offering me to write and star my own Broadway show. Right. And then 16 days later, the review is "Avert Your Eyes" from the New York Times.
Really?
So, it doesn't get better than that.
But to your point, it afforded you that opportunity to still stay in New York with your family. You know what I mean?
That was it. I mean, that was the bottom line. And
right.
Wow. And some freedom.
Well, yeah, but when I think about it, I could have gone out there.
Oh, yeah.
And been one of the 50 guys.
Yep.
Who had their shot.
Right. The Ray Romanos, the guys that got those development deals that got their own TV shows.
Not even the guys like Foxworthy and Ray and all those guys who really got what they deserved. But I mean, all the you have to understand that in
even before that.
In the 80s, they were handing out development deals like they were nothing.
Right.
I know so many guys who went out to LA and shot their pilot, big, huge networks, huge people behind them, and all kinds of guest stars. Right. And then they figured they had it made. They bought $1 million house, and then it doesn't get picked up, and then they have to sell the house and go back. So I was spared all that and was able to, have a legitimate career in not just comedy, but I mean, in addition to just theater, there's a lot of television and film that gets shot here. And so, I fell into a whole bunch of great guest star roles on TV shows that they shoot here. So,
well, you're right. They were handing out development deals. So to your point earlier about, my gig about, the Catholic, the religious, the wedding at Cana, someone in the 90s would have looked at that and been like, we're going to make a whole series around an Italian Catholic family, and you're going to be the center of it. And this is going to be, and it could have gone great. Like Tool Time and, Tim Allen, or it could have fucking crashed, either way.
There's that generic side of show business, and then there's the side where everything just clicks and everything is where it needs to be. It's it's almost a cosmic event.
Yeah.
There was no doubt that Eddie was going to be Eddie. There was no doubt that Eddie was going to be as huge as Eddie was going to be. It was in the stars. Do you know what I mean? And the same thing for Ray, and the same thing for Foxworthy, and the same thing for Kim and James. It just,
Yeah.
the stars align, and that's what you have.
Right.
But there are so many. I mean, I know people who do community theater, and to them, to ever even just get paid once for doing theater would be a huge success.
Yes,
So,
exactly.
there are so many levels to show business that you have to kind of get yourself in the frame of mind that wherever you're at, be grateful for.
Exactly.
Yes.
Well, none of us, we've said it before. When we started doing comedy, we didn't do comedy to get paid. The first time someone handed you $25 to open up, you were like, wait a minute, I just got paid $25 to get up there for 5 or 10 minutes. This is fucking awesome.
That's why I didn't go back to college.
Right.
Well, I can get paid for this.
Right. Yeah. I remember one of the first paid gigs I ever got. It was to open up for Joe Rogan and a guy named Ed the Machine Regine, who was a New England comedy, god. Now he's out in LA and he's doing a lot of character acting and stuff like that. But I was just amazed that, like, holy shit, I got paid $50 to go to this dive bar and open up for these guys that I look up to.
That's more than my father made for a week worth of work when he first started working.
Right. Yeah. And this was a hobby, it was something that I just enjoyed doing. So, and that's what I think binds us all together is there's so many of us that
let me stop you there again. Nothing is binding.
I know.
Together,
all right.
Okay? We could not be more separate. You know what I'm saying? It's like
thanks for putting me in my place.
You and Mother Teresa. Okay, it's like these are two things. One of these things is not like the other. Okay, so let me just get that.
What I meant was we all love just doing it, whether we get paid big bucks like you or shit money like me.
You have to love it. Otherwise, why would you do this?
Why would you do it? Exactly. Exactly.
And you never know where the
Jesus,
opportunity.
I felt like we had Rich Voss on tonight.
I know,
shitting on me all night. This is
here.
great.
But you're a good example of how you took it with radio when everybody was fighting to get sitcoms.
Yeah.
And you were like, I can do what I do in this medium instead.
And stay here with my family.
And it just shows that, if you've got the talent and you're comedic, funny, there's lots of different ways you can be creative.
I feel like it's almost, water seeks its own level.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
If you let go and just allow the universe to take care of things, whether it's God or whatever,
let it do what it needs to do.
Just say thank you and yes, and know that you are no matter where you go, there you are. So
yeah.
To quote Buckaroo Banzai, but you gotta kind of just, again, it goes back to the land thing. Life is what happens to you when you're busy making other plans. Let it happen. Just be you. Be you, and let you do what you do. I mean, that's really, and I think we put so much pressure on ourselves by comparing ourselves. I mean, I wasted so many
other
years.
people.
I wasted so many years being envious of Eddie and all the success that he had, from working together in the triplets, and then all of a sudden he becomes this household word.
Yeah.
It was just so beyond my realm of comprehension. I mean, even I, with my lofty goals, didn't think I would ever get that big. It's like,
right.
And believe me, I had myself, as an action figure. I went pretty far, but and you waste so much time.
Yeah. The only person you're competing against is yourself.
Always.
If you can improve upon what you did yesterday, then that's all that matters.
Okay. All right, let's not get too serious.
Well, listen, for a no name like a no name like me, I have to tell myself this shit. You know what I mean?
It's such a great name. It shouldn't be a no name.
I know. Well, can you help me?
No,
no.
You can't live up to this name, Ace. Just resign
just
yourself
give up.
to the fact.
Yeah, I'll go back to calling myself Rich Aceto.
No,
okay,
you know what I'm saying?
Thank you.
Sell it. Sell the name to somebody who can do us some justice.
Who can do something with it? All right, thanks, Rob. Well, all right. Hey, So we always wrap up the show with a funny bad gig story. And as I told you in the email, when you said, should I prepare anything? I said, the only question we always ask everyone is the funny bad gig story. And that's the gig that it wasn't funny the night of. It made you go, why am I doing this? Like, Enterprise Rent-A-Car is hiring. Why the fuck am I doing this? But the further away you get from that night, you're in the green room with other comics like weeks later, and everyone's sharing their war stories. And this is what you tell.
Yeah.
And, with 40 years, you might have one or two.
Yeah.
And, the thing is, it's like how to choose which one.
Is this a whole separate episode? Is that what you're saying?
I'm telling you, it could literally be its whole other episode.
Right.
But there are also different layers.
Yeah.
And there are things why certain gigs stand out apart from others. One of the first paying gigs we had as the Magnificent Seven from Dixon's was the Smithtown Landing Country Club. And this is when comedy was so new. No one knew what they were doing, but this woman thought she was just going to get comics to do this at this country club every Wednesday night, and she was going to make a fortune, and she was going to be, develop stars. And we went there, and it was like in solarium at the country club, and it was like all the people, like Caddyshack, all dressed up in the polo shirts and all that kind of stuff. And there was a microphone and a little small amp and no mic stand. No mic stand. So I find a pool cue in the game room, and I duct tape the microphone to the pool cue, and we stick
so you could stand it up.
Right, and we stick it in an umbrella stand, just so that there's a way for us to do it. And so the seven of us go on, and Dave Hawthorne, just to indicate the ridiculousness of where we were. And meanwhile, we were getting paid $25 a piece, so this was huge.
Yeah.
He just takes the pool cue and goes, "The butt will be ready in about a minute." And that was it. And on the way back, we spent all our money at a topless bar. And where we compared our lot to that of a stripper, because we're both essentially naked on stage.
Yeah, right.
But there's a story of when I was doing 1407, Club 1407. There was a night when it was a group sale of deaf people, and it was some kind of a group of deaf arts people, and they had an interpreter, a sign language interpreter. Yeah. And so I did my act, and we still sold tickets to the regular people. And there was an interpreter who, as I was doing my act, would sign what I was saying.
Yeah.
And I found this to be kind of a very interesting experience because the timing was a little bit off. Every time I would do a joke, I'd get a laugh, and then there'd be a couple of seconds of pause, and then I get another laugh. So it was like, it really kind of was like
messed with you. Yeah, right.
Yeah, exactly. So, but I took special note. Like, there are certain things in my act was like, oh, I really want to know how to sign language this particular line of my act. It's like, so, I just think that, there's certain names that, that unfortunately, prevent you from going to certain, careers in life. And, like, for instance, Senator Fudgepacker. And so I turn and I want to look to see.
You wanted to wait.
I want to know what Fudgepacker is. So I do the whole show, and it was the strangest show because it was all this, laugh. And then it was like, holding for both ways.
Joke, laugh.
Right, exactly.
Laugh, right.
Show's over, goes okay. And all the deaf people line up to get the interpreter's autograph. Because
God. They thought he was making it up.
And I was the interpreter for the hearing audience.
Oh my God, that's hilarious.
So, talk about wanting to get,
turning it around.
And then, there are gigs where I got hired to do a bus ride to a Christmas party. It was some company, it was a corporate deal, some company in Baltimore. Yeah. And they flew me into Baltimore, and then the guy picked me up and drove me to a rest stop. And then they were in a bus, a double-decker bus, going to New Jersey for their, corporate Christmas party from Baltimore.
Yep.
And the idea was they were going to pull over to help the guy whose car was broken. And it was me, and the surprise was, I'm a comedian. Well, what I didn't know is they wanted me to be funny from Baltimore to New Jersey.
Oh, my God.
On I-95. In traffic.
In traffic.
And it just got to the point where I was pulling out every old dirty joke I knew and then
Right.
repeating it again on the upper level of the bus and then going
Repeating
back down
joke.
and doing more material and then going and then I would ask people downstairs to tell and they would tell and then I would take that joke and I would bring it upstairs. And I would do
Upstairs.
upstairs.
Who's got a good joke? And then you go upstairs and tell that one. Oh my
So it was
god.
like it was a 3.5 hour gig.
Oh
but-
my god.
I think the greatest story that I can impart to you guys was when I was on the Joe Franklin show. I don't know if you guys remember the Joe Franklin show.
No.
Billy Crystal used to do an impression of Joe
Yeah,
Franklin.
I only
Joe-
know it from his
Right.
parody.
Right. Joe Franklin was on WOR, which was Channel 9 in the early days of New York television. He is the Guinness World Record holder for the longest talk show of all time.
Okay.
And what was great about this, and it was a local show. It was, it wasn't quite public access, but it was just about.
Right.
And this is from like the 60s on.
Mm-hmm.
Joe had, his sponsors, Joseph Speakerman's 16 varieties of ethnic breads and Hoffman soda. And he had all this, and what he used to do is he would have on everybody from like Liza Minnelli to some woman from a wedding band who decided that she was going to start teaching singing to kids in schools. It was like the guests that he would,
Yeah, right.
but they would all be on the same show. That was what was
Right.
cool about the show. Is that it'd be Liza Minnelli and this woman, and then a guy who opened up Pastrami King. It was a new restaurant. And what Joe would do is he would say, Liza, what do you think about her? And then we go have a sandwich. I mean, he would try to get everyone together.
Right.
He would try
Right.
to, as a host, he tried to make everyone feel like they were on the same level playing field. Spinal Tap did the show in
Yeah.
character. He had no idea that they were in
That they
character.
were. Yeah. Oh my
Right.
god.
It was legendary. Anyway, so I get booked on this show because I'm doing a commercial for Gloria Parker and her musical Glasses at Christmas. Gloria
my
Parker
God.
was a 1940s
Was this the
band leader,
Yeah.
and she is an all-woman orchestra,
Yep.
and she was like the Tommy Dorsey of whatever. And she was genius. She played the marimba. She was like marimba girl or whatever. She was known for playing the marimba. Genius. But she also played the glass harp. And the glass harp is a table with a bunch of glasses on it. filled
Glasses
with
and
water.
Yeah,
And
they
then
rub the thing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
She is a virtuoso. You can't believe the music she gets out of these fucking glasses. It's unbelievable. Anyway, she does this album, Gloria Parker's Musical Glasses at Christmas, and I get booked for her commercial. It's one of these, marketing kind of deals where it's like they pay for the commercial by cutting in the TV network and the profits of it. Anyway,
Right.
it's one of those kinds of commercials. My first commercial. I'm thinking I'm in show business. I'm getting paid.
Yeah. Right.
As a sidebar to this, she gets an appearance in the Joe Franklin show. And because Gary, my manager, was involved in, because he's a musician, he did all the arrangements
Mm-hmm.
of these Christmas songs for the glasses. He was able to get me on with her. So I'm going to be on Joe Franklin. It's television. Television. So I'm on. I do whatever the thing was. I was doing Dogs at a Cocktail Party, whatever it was. I did my thing. I sit down. Joe interviews me for a little bit. We'll be right back, my friends, with this message from Hoffman Soda, Pineapple. And then it comes back and it says, "And now Gloria Parker, Musical Glasses at Christmas, my friends." And she comes out and she plays Joy to the World, whatever it is. It's
Yeah.
like a full orchestra just on the glasses. And she sits down and says, Gloria Parker says, Rob Bartlett, a comedian, says, "What do you think of Gloria Parker? But tell me what you think about her as your Jerry Lewis."
Oh my god.
So why do Jerry Lewis going, "Oh, Gloria, glad she don't fill it with champagne because she get drunk and then maybe she would be able to play you, lady."
Yeah.
And says, "Gloria Parker, what do you think of Rob Bartlett?" And she says, "Well, I think next time I play the glasses, I might have Rob sweat into one of them to fill it
Oh
up
my god.
because obviously,
Yeah.
go to commercial, come back with this guy who I don't remember his name. Forgive me. but he was the Holocaust poet. He was a guy who had
God.
been in Treblinka or Auschwitz or one of the concentration camps, and he, as a teenager, wrote poetry on like bits of toilet paper and whatever.
Oh,
And
yeah.
he published a book. And so, of course, he comes out and he reads. He sits on the couch and he reads from this book. And it was just the most, I mean,
Depressing.
heartbreaking. I mean,
Right.
everyone is sobbing. Cameraman, everyone comes back and just says, my friends, the Holocaust poet. We'll be right back after this message from Joseph Speakerman, 16 Varieties of Ethnic Breads, with Hannibal the Clown.
Oh, my God.
Oh no.
Now, I'm really glad I went up first because I'm at the far end. I'm sitting at the end of the couch. And then
Right.
Gloria's to my left, and then Holocaust poet is to her left. And now we're going to see Hannibal the Clown. Hannibal the Clown is this woman who's a birthday party clown.
Yeah.
I mean, literally, somebody like at the back of New York Magazine, Hugh Magazine, whatever, it was a birthday party clown, you would book her. Okay.
Mm.
And she had the regular bozo, big clown outfit with the hat and the white face and the floppy shoes. But on the clown outfit, she had all these like bicycle horns,
Yep.
bells, and little tiny, ring of bells. And so she comes back and Joe introduces her Hannibal the Clown. And Hannibal the Clown does this mime, basically this pantomime, about some kid losing his balloon at the fair. And she's using the horns and the bells and stuff to, make up for not speaking, whatever.
Right.
She's, saying, ding, 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 ding. She's waving, the balloon flying away. So she's just down in the panel. And I'm looking at the camera guy going, is this actually happening?
Yeah, right.
We just went from the musical Glasses of Christmas to the Holocaust poet to Hannibal the Clown. I mean,
Right.
It's way before the days of punked, but I would have thought
right.
it was being punked.
Yeah.
So of course Joe then wants to do his thing where he brings everyone together.
Right.
Oh, my friends, and Hannibal the Clown, and tell me, Hannibal, what did you think of Morris, the Holocaust poet? And there's a beat. And then she squeezes this bicycle horn that she has on her costume over here really slowly. So it goes,
Oh, my God.
and she goes, and I look to my right, and the camera guy has lost it. And I literally fell off the end of the couch, and I was
and
so
started
glad.
losing it.
I was so glad that they didn't. I was at the end of the couch.
It wasn't
right?
you.
I wasn't on camera.
Right. Oh.
Hannibal the Clown and the Holocaust poet.
Oh, my God.
Anyway, those are my three.
Oh, my God. That's
And
awesome.
Hannibal the Clown is now doing cruise shows.
Yeah, right.
she's
Cruise
out on the
ship.
ships.
Yes, exactly.
She's a boat act.
No,
Um,
no. That's, oh, my God. That's awesome. I love it.
Oh my gosh.
Well, listen, we really appreciate that you came on tonight and told these stories and made me feel important half the show and then made me feel like a piece of shit the other
I
half.
didn't want to bring you too high up.
Yeah,
you
yeah.
know?
No, I appreciate that.
you
I
gotta take
really
the boat
do.
with the bed, Ajit. You know what I'm saying? You gotta take the boat with the
Forget
bed.
about it. No, we really appreciate that you were on. And let's talk a little bit about Bob Nelson as well.
Yeah.
We're trying to raise money for Bob. He's got a GoFundMe. If you go to GoFundMe and look up Bob Nelson, you really don't even have to have the actual link. If you go to GoFundMe, look up comedian Bob Nelson. There is a GoFundMe page for him. He was one of those guys, like I said, he was on the original Young Comedian specials with Rodney Dangerfield.
Mm-hmm.
Hilarious guy. I had the opportunity to work with him back in the late 90s, early 2000s. Very, very funny guy and one of the nicest guys in show business and really does deserve to get some help. So please go to his GoFundMe page. Donate whatever you can. Every little bit is going to help him. We really appreciate it. And we'd love to have you on again, Rob.
Oh, that's not going to happen.
Well,
No.
we can
No,
dream.
no way.
We can
This
dream.
this was really just a favor to Richie Byrne. So
yeah, I appreciate
that's
that.
just-
Yeah, and
It's
we
just-
appreciate Richie Byrne for
just tough love, Ace. I just want you to know that.
listen, I
don't want you to
appreciate
get your
it.
hopes up, okay?
No, I
There's
know.
No chance.
Well, I figured maybe next time you
No
could go
chance.
on with Scott Higgins and I won't be on, whatever.
Scott is dead to me.
Fuck Scott. I know. Fuck Scott Higgins.
That's right.
That's the name of this episode. We're going to call it Rob Bartlett, Fuck Scott Higgins. That's the name of the episode.
I love it. We should make
Absolutely.
T-shirts. Print up T-shirts.
Oh, yeah, we will. And we'll sell them and we'll give all the money to Bob Nelson.
There you
Fuck
go.
Scott Higgins
go.
t-shirts.
See?
That'll
You're
be
a man
great.
of ideas. This is why I love you.
Perfect.
Yeah, I try. No, really, we appreciate you being on, Rob. And
My pleasure, man.
Yeah, it was really great
And-
talking to you.
and maybe we'll beg you to be on again. But
I'll see. Yeah, maybe.
But in the meantime, is there any- is there
You
anything
know?
we could promote for you, website
are
or
you
anything
performing?
like that?
Well, you might find me on the off-ramp exit 32 on the Grand Central Parkway, just
All
before
right.
Astoria Boulevard. I'm
All
the
right.
guy who's selling the oranges.
All right, sounds good.
No, I'm actually writing a show, a one-man show, which is just basically stories from my varied career.
Yep. That's great.
Unfortunately, we didn't get a chance to even touch upon my experience with the WWF.
Well, we'd love to
the
have
time.
you
Yeah.
be able to be on and talk about
we may have to come back on just to do a whole episode
Yeah.
on that one.
Absolutely.
When the show's ready to go,
Yeah.
and then promote it for sure.
Yeah. And so, it's what can I say? It's not going to happen. It's just not going to happen.
Well, we appreciate it. No. But listen,
care.
check out Rob Bartlett, hilarious Rob Bartlett comedy, Rob Bartlett all over social media. If you Google his name, you will find Rob Bartlett, and hopefully
Thanks for being
on
so vague, Ace. I really appreciate that.
honor off
I did
Broadway.
research on
Well,
you.
listen,
I actually did research. I spent time.
Here's the problem.
figuring out why you
I've
have your own show.
literally had to pee for like 20 minutes.
Oh, is that it?
and-
Okay, so now
yeah.
I'm never getting off.
No,
Now
no.
I'm just gonna make-
No,
I'm gonna
no.
make you
Here's
puke
what
up.
I'm going to do.
You can go.
I'm gonna make you puke up.
I'm gonna
I'm gonna make you
let
puke
you
up.
go, and
No,
I'm
no,
gonna
you're
go
not gonna do
pee, and then
can't
if
do
Rob
that.
stays on and
You
talks
can't.
to you,
No.
We can
I'm not
talk
gonna
great. We
I'm
can
gonna
talk
stay-
WWF.
It's,
Whatever.
it's over. No, it's over. I'm sorry, it's over. I want
Well,
him to pee his pants. If he's not
it
going
was-
to pee his pants, it's over. All right.
He had one glass of bourbon and he couldn't hold it.
Yeah, Tom, I'm just going to say right now, radio's dead. Okay.
Oh, just believe me, I retired 2-3 years ago.
Good.
I'm
Yeah.
done. But hey, I got this great comedy career to fall back on, so it's
Yeah.
going great.
Yeah.
It's going great here in New England.
I
So
wouldn't put too much stock in that. Okay. I got to go. I got a gig in November.
yeah, hey Rob, you were great having you on. It was a pleasure. And now I'm here by myself waiting for Ace to go pee. No Scott Higgins, no Ace. Tom Stewart has taken over the acement. It is now the Stu-dio. That's what we're going to call it. Great having Rob on here. And great having all these comments. I can't see them, though, because they're on Ace's computer over here. But I wanted to talk about some of that WWF stuff. I guess he was a commentator for a while. Plus, he spent so many years on radio, which is something I did, plus the comedy angle of it and everything. Very cool. Ace might be taking a shit now. I'm not sure if it's going from a pee to a full-blown pooping at this point now. Everybody's tuning out now. Nobody wants to hear me. That's okay. We're coming up in October. That's what I'm looking forward to here on Behind the Funny, because we're going to do lots of spooky stuff for October, and I get to be involved, which is a lot of fun. Rob left, and I'm just here by myself now, trying to fill the air.
Oh, shit. Did he really leave?
Yeah, he
I was
said-
going to say,
he said,
welcome
"I'm
to
out."
hour 3 of Rob Bartlett.
He-
I
he was
couldn't
like,
help
"Outta
it. I
here."
had to pee so bad. But listen, we really appreciate Rob being
You
on,
gotta
honestly.
get like a bottle under the table here.
I
or
know,
something.
no
Nobody
shit.
would
I got to
know.
get one of those little
Nobody
pee
would know.
bottles from the emergency department. I just had to pee so bad for the past like 10 minutes. And I was like, oh, damn it. No, listen, we really appreciate Rob being
No,
on.
he was the best.
Absolutely. So many great stories. And as much as he was busting balls, I would love to have him back on to talk even more
Yeah.
about other things in
Yeah.
his career
I don't think he's
as
gonna,
well.
but it would be nice.
Probably
It would be
not.
cool.
Like he said, it was a favor to Richie Byrne, but I'll call Richie Byrne and ask for another
yeah,
favor.
you might have to cash in another favor.
But so what were you talking about?
Oh, I was just mumbling on about you were probably shitting at this point now because
Dude, I had a lot of pee saved up. I'm sorry.
Now I was teasing the October spookiness that's going to be coming up.
Yes.
I mean, it's only August when we're recording this, but
yeah, but we're planning some great stuff. So like I said earlier, we have David Naughton, who is from American Werewolf in London. He had his own, honestly, this guy is like a quadruple threat. He had his own TV show. He had his own TV show and based on a hit song called Making It back in the 70s. He was the original Dr. Pepper guy. He was also the star of American Werewolf in London. So he is an amazing guest that we're looking forward to.
Go pee before you interview him.
You know, shit.
Be a long one.
I'm not going to pee at all before. I mean, I'm not going to drink anything all that day. But then we have you coming on, and we've got a special thing planned.
We got something special planned.
Which this isn't a secret to Scott. We can actually talk about this.
Mm-hmm.
So if you've listened to the podcast, you've heard us talk about the fact that I live 1 mile from the Payne House, which is one of the most haunted locations in New England.
In
right?
my opinion.
In your opinion.
In my opinion.
And I've heard other people say it as well.
Yeah.
I'm less than a mile from it. And Tom has been amazing to talk to his friend Ken DaCosta from Rise Up Paranormal.
Yep.
And Ken is going to arrange a night where myself, Tom,
hopefully we can
get like 3 or 4 of us together and do an investigation.
Yeah.
And then what we'll do is in October we'll analyze that data and then come back on the podcast maybe with Ken if he's available. And
I'm hoping that we can pull it off, and that Ken will come through with that
and talk about what we find that night on the investigation. And
we're going to have to drug Scott or something to get him.
Well,
to
I was just going to say we're going to have to figure out how to edit out the shit sounds from when Scott is shitting himself during the investigation.
Get like a beep button for him. Or something.
Yeah, exactly.
Luckily, it'll be pre-recorded.
So we're hoping to have David, and then we're hoping to do this investigation. And Tom is working on getting a very special guest that Scott doesn't know about, so I don't want to put it out there. But we're hoping to get a very, very special guest from the paranormal world to come on, as well as I've reached out to Jason Hawes to come on, and he had told me that as long as they weren't filming Ghost Hunters, because as you may or may not know, I
feel like they'd be wrapped up by then because it's
I think he said they were going to be wrapping up by October. So
Unless
they
did
end
up doing a special or something.
They did Ghost Nation for about a year, but then they approached him. The original
Ghost Hunters.
The original production company reached back out to him to do Ghost Hunters.
Now
again.
did you go to school with him? Is that how you know him?
No. Oh. So here's the funny thing. One of my best friends is one of the managers for Roto-Rooter.
Oh, okay.
And years ago when I lived in Cranston, I had some issues, and the guys who came to fix my pipes were Jason and Grant from Ghost Hunters before they even did Ghost Hunters.
So you didn't, it was before the TV
show.
It
was before the TV show.
Yeah. No, a lot of people, that's
so
probably
I've known
one of
him
the
for
most
a long time.
asked questions for Jason is that, are you really a plumber?
Yeah, he really is.
Thought it was just part of the show.
I had roots. I had roots growing through the pipes in my front yard that were clogging up my pipes. Yeah. And him and Grant came over one night and they staked out my pipes.
And they were good plumbers.
And they were fucking great plumbers. Yeah. But then I ended up finding out that they were into paranormal investigations. And I remember being at a Panera Bread and talking to Jason one day when he got the call that they were going to go investigate the Queen Mary, which was one of their biggest episodes, you know?
Yeah.
So we're hoping to get Jason on.
That would be cool.
And it's just going to be, a great October. I'm really,
if you get
really
Jason,
psyched.
I'm sneaking in here.
I told you can sneak in. Absolutely.
Because you guys aren't going to know what to ask. Right?
No. And then we've got some other guys, the Chuck and Brad show.
I know those guys.
Yeah, they've reached out to us to try and get on the podcast. So we're going to have them as guests, as well as maybe be guests on their podcast. So over the next couple of weeks, just to let you know, on the 25th next week, we've got Rhode Island Comedy Hall of Fame founder Joe Hebert, who's going to come on and talk a little bit about the Rhode Island Comedy Hall of Fame itself.
Are you in the Hall of Fame?
I am in the Hall of
That's
Fame.
right,
I
you
was
are,
like the
yes.
5th or 6th
Okay.
inductee, and they're
Yeah.
about to induct another guy. If you remember back in the late 80s, early 90s, there was a
Oh, I know.
song called Bobby. What was it?
He had a few, but the one was Everyone's Italian on
Everyone's
Christmas.
Italian on Christmas.
big hit.
Chooch to Gooch
That was his newer one.
was
that
the
he put out
newer
a few
one,
years ago.
but
Yeah.
his name is Bobby Brajol
Bobby B.
and Bobby B.
I go way back with Bobby B because I don't
really?
know if you realize this, but when I was working in radio, I worked at Kicks 106, and then it became Hot 106.
Yes, yep,
And
they
I
played his
was
songs.
a radio
right?
DJ, yeah, and we used to play his songs, and he would come to our events, and I did lots of events with him, and he's such a great guy.
Yeah.
He's really a good guy, and I knew him early on.
So
back in the day.
Joe is going to talk a little bit about the Rhode Island Comedy Hall of Fame as well as the
Italian
induction.
rapper.
The induction of the Italian rapper Bobby Brajol.
Who's on that show? On that panel, has he announced it yet?
I don't know who's on
maybe
the.
he'll announce it.
Who's on the dais?
I didn't get the call this time.
I didn't
so.
get it either.
No.
So, but maybe because I've only met Bobby online. So
Yeah,
and
I wouldn't
then
know what joke to write about him either.
on the 1st of September, we have Martin Olson, who's been one of our favorite guests. You hear him in our intro to the show, and as well as he was head writer for Phineas and Ferb for years. Was one of the piano players at the original Ding Ho in Boston. Was featured in When Stand Up Stood Out by France Alameda, that documentary. So we're really excited to have him. On the 8th of September, we have Chance Langton coming back.
Oh, he's
one of the original Boston guys.
I've opened
Reached
for him.
back out to me, asked me if he could be on again, and I was like, absolutely. And then on the 15th, we have a guy named Mo Mandel, who is a comic from out in LA.
I know that name.
Vin Jacvoni actually turned us on to him.
Oh, yeah?
He's
I know his name.
He's gotten friendly with
Or
him, and he
something.
said, "Oh, dude, you got to get this guy on. He's hilarious." So
Oh.
we got some great shows coming up
Awesome.
in over the next couple of
Do I
weeks.
still hold the record of most appearances?
Actually, I think you're in the 5 Timers Club, my
Am I?
friend.
Does
Yes,
this
you
count?
are.
Does this
I
count
think I
as a
got to
fifth?
give you a
I
jacket
get
or
a
something.
jacket.
Yeah, exactly. No, but it's always awesome having Tom on, and you're going to see a lot more of Tom in Scottober.
Yes, October.
The Scottober Spooktacular. You'll see more of Tom.
Be careful
And-
out in those woods, Scott. There's a lot of spooky.
Yeah, that's
things out
right.
there.
And listen, chupacabras
Oh,
and
yeah,
Sasquatch,
Bigfoots.
Sasquatch, all that kind
yeah.
of shit. But yeah, to be sure to check out Tom's podcast, both My Paranormal Story and Celebrity Paranormal Stories Experiences.
Yes.
Check them out.
Yep.
They're on Apple Podcasts or anywhere you get your podcasts, right?
Yep. Anywhere. They're pretty much on all those little.
So,
apps.
and I'm very, very excited because Tom did give me
I
a
brought my
copy
book.
of his book called 10 Best Tools for Ghost Hunting. And so I will be looking at this. And Scott, you have a copy here waiting for
You
you.
can read it in your next bathroom trip, probably.
Yeah,
It's not that
well,
big.
I wasn't there that long. Come on. Rob just got really impatient, but I couldn't help it.
He probably had to pee too. That's
I was
probably why
about
he
to
left.
pee. Absolutely. I guarantee it was because he had
Yeah.
to pee. So I just want to our friend Robin said, to your point, Ace, because we have a little game that we play on the show,
Oh,
because I tend to say to your point to the guest a lot.
do
And
you?
so we
Did you
made
do
it into
tonight?
a little drinking game.
Oh, so they drink every time you say it?
Well, I'm supposed to
So is
drink every
anyone
time I
drunk?
say it, but if I drink anymore, I'll be peeing myself again.
So you didn't really get to go into any of the comments. Anybody? say
No,
anything?
no. I mean,
Studio. There we go.
some people, yeah.
I
So-
called it the studio, and since you were gone and I was here alone, it's not the Acement anymore.
It's not the Ace, but it's the studio
glad somebody got
for
the joke.
Stuart. That's good. Thank you, Robin, our friend Robin. Thank you so much for listening. We really appreciate it. Please, again, any 5-star written reviews, they really help the podcast with the algorithms and getting more people to find us. The past 2 months have been the biggest download months for us in the past 4
You
years.
guys
So
are rocking it.
we really, really appreciate it. Keep those coming. And then, reach out to us. I mean, one of the reasons why we have Mo Mandel coming on is because one of our listeners, our friend Vin Giacavoni, said, hey, have you ever heard of Mo Mandel? And then we looked him up. He's got some real good credits and is a really, really funny comic. So if you've got comics in your area that you'd like us to try and interview, we'd love to interview them. It's not just about the people that we know. We love getting to know new people or people that we don't know. Not that they're necessarily new. So please, again, tell your friends about us. 5-star written reviews, and we really appreciate it. And keep staying tuned because we've got some great shows coming up. And I want to thank you, Tom, for being on tonight.
Thank you for inviting me. It was fun, and it was a great guest. So I appreciate it. Anytime you need me to fill in, I'm happy.
Anytime,
happy to do it.
Absolutely. So other than that, hey folks, we will see you next week.